Good afternoon, everyone. You're all very welcome to another trader interview here at Alpha Capital Group. So today we have one of our own, Alan from Ireland, funded trader, bringing him in obviously for a funded call. So Alan is one of our 400k, one of our max funded traders here at the Alpha Capital Group. So today we're going to be doing an interview with Alan, getting to know more about how he trades, what he looks at, his strategy, a bit about that, and obviously more information about him and how he obviously got into the markets. So, Alan, obviously very welcome. Happy Monday to you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good to see you again, Jerry.
Welcome to the call, of course. And my friend, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad now.
Very good.
I'm indoors today. We had a bit of a choppy day the last day we tried to do this.
So Alan, I suppose for those watching along, do you want to maybe talk me through a bit about yourself, how you got into trading and your journey, I suppose, over the last number of years?
Sure, yeah. So it's pretty long story because it goes back about 3 years. I saw something pop up on Instagram, as most people do, one day, guy in a Lamborghini, I think it was at the time, and how you can 10x your money in a couple of weeks, and didn't go too well, needless to say. I threw in, I think, 500 first, and then that was gone, I think, in 5 minutes on gold, put a full lot on or something. 500 vanished in front of my eyes, and I was disgusted, but I wanted to try again, as most people do. And I went in blindly again, and I lost about 2 grand. And I gave it up for a while, and then came back to it probably a year later, which would bring us to about 2 years ago, around 2020. It would have been 2.5 years ago. So I got back into it again, and I threw another grand down the drain, and I said there has to be an easier way, like. And around that time, I was actually, who I met online was Raja Banks at the time. And Raja was promoting that company that was around back then called Funding Talent. And I started trading for them, and I blew all my money pretty quick again. But I started to learn a bit more and started to understand about the ratios of how many people win and how many lose, and that there was a hope. I mean, Raja was a really good mentor. At the time, I heard lots of people saying good things about him. I started watching the way he traded, but I didn't really practice it too much. I was watching it, I was getting a bit disgusted that he was making money and I wasn't. So I knew then at that point that I couldn't keep throwing money into it, that I had to try and learn a strategy. So I was lucky at the time. I bumped into a guy who was just part of a group, a gold group I was in. It was actually a signal group, and a guy called Martin, and we chatted on and off. He wasn't a mentor at the time or anything, but when I messaged him, like he sent me so much information on gold, and I was like, wow, can't believe that this actually happens, and when he said it, it made an awful lot more sense. So at that point, I was kind of infatuated with gold. Even though I didn't take on trading at full time at the time, I was trying everything. So that's about 2 years ago. So I threw a lot of money into Funding Talent at the time, and then I ended up making some money out of it. And I was like, wow, so this is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There is money to be made at this, but unfortunately, Funding Talent didn't last too long, and neither did my money. So I was kind of back to square one again. So yeah, at the time, this would be bringing us on to about January. Would it be January 2020 or 2021? 2021. It must be January 2020. And I I was blind to. I didn't know what was going on with these prop firms really at all. I didn't. The rules of Funding Talent were there. They were different. They were there, definitely there to catch you out. But I still couldn't understand the difference between what would be an easy way to do it, what rules wouldn't be to catch you out. And I blindly stepped in with another company, MFF, at the time last January, and I lost, or January 2 years ago, and I lost all my money again. At this point, I had relocated because I was in Thailand. Soon after that, I relocated because I was in Thailand, and I was living out there for the past 8 years, and I I had to come home because I lost everything with COVID-19. So I had that few months there. I think it was from January to June, where I could see like there was a lot of I could see these payouts like with them, and but I never seen why people were failing. And I started to realize then what it was. It was the equity daily drawdown rule, which was really screwing people up, and it got me so many times. I lost quite a bit of money with them. So I didn't at the time. I didn't move from them. I kept trying with them. I went home. I ended up with €100. I had no money left at all. Really, I pretty much had to grind my arse off to get €100, and I pumped it into one of their 10k accounts when I came home because I had nothing else. I'd lost $6,000 in that 6 months, and I started off with a 10k account, and I actually passed one, and I got a payout, and that was like, wow, that was a big breakthrough. But what did I do when I got the payout? It was around October that year, October 2021. I jumped on their instant funding model, not having a clue that how bad they are. It was not set up to make you win. It was set up to make you fail. Couldn't hold trades over the weekends. Your equity drawdown, but your drawdown was your full balance, but your full allowance, the full amount you were allowed to lose was only the money that you put into it. So I put in 1,250 twice, so I had two accounts that cost me 1,250, and I blew them again in October. Within a month, I had them gone. Within a couple of weeks, I just watched the two of them disappear. I had exact same trades running on both of them, so I was gutted, and I can't that was the point where I thought maybe I should give it up. My mum was even saying like, it's not going anywhere, but it was just one guy who was that guy that showed me gold. He said to me, never give up before. He said it's the people that don't, the people that never give up, they're the ones, they're that 1% that hit the top, and that kind of always stuck in my head. So I didn't give up, and coming into, what was that, June? That was October 2021, and then last year, I got another chunk of money, and I put it into January, and I put it into another account, and it didn't go too well for me. And at this stage, I realized like I was starting to understand strategy, starting to understand the way the market moves. And I knew, like, the more times I lost, the more I knew that I could go somewhere with this. So in about
each loss was like a lesson learned.
Yeah, it's a harsh lesson, but there's two ways of learning. There's the easy way and the hard way. Some people can learn the easy way, but a lot of them people, they go forward soft, and they don't, later on in life they get nabbed. Whereas I think I've been through the trenches with it now. I think I'm battle hardened, so I think there's not much catching me out these days. Like, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. So it was all that pain was worth it. There's no question about that. Like, I was down. So coming into this time, last year, which is, what are we in now, May? Oh no, this time last year I was doing really well, but January last year, I think I was down about €15,000 over the 3 years, and that was only the money that I put into it. So if you added in the profits that I made on top of that, like, you'd be talking at least 30 grand,
Yeah.
So I was like, I have to stop trading so many instruments because I was struggling to catch them all. They were catching me out on that negative equity, the equity daily drawdown rule, which I didn't really know at the time. There was other companies out there who didn't have it. So I ended up finding one that didn't have it around I think it was March. And I had stopped trading everything else at this stage. I only traded gold. I was focused on gold. And we had been in a group where we met up again in a group, me and my mentor, Martin, and we met up in another group in between that. And he had a group of us. He was teaching a group of us at the time, and he was predominantly trading gold. Like, he was focused on gold. So I did really well. I found another prop firm I was trading with, and I did pretty good. This time last year, I had more money than I knew how to spend. Like, I gone from being broke, from losing everything. I had to leave my dog in Thailand the year before, or 10 months before, nearly. I had nothing. I started off with €100, and the next thing I've got 30 grand in my bank account, and I was got a bit overexcited, as you would.
Yeah.
So I jumped on the first plane back to see my dog. I've got my dog in Phuket, and I jumped on the first plane back, and I was like, this is it, sorted for life. And I don't really drink in Ireland, but unfortunately, when I'm in Thailand, I tend to like a little party or two every week. So that didn't go too well.
Certainly,
Uh,
certainly.
yeah, I made quite a bit of money when I was there. I got the taste of the high life. I could have bought a car out of the money I had. I could have done anything, but I had, unfortunately, the money was blinding me. It was. I remember one day I had 37,000 floating on my 100K account, and I just wanted to hit that 40K, and I was throwing in lots. I had about 8 lots running on a massive stack, and the most of them was at the top. And the next thing, it tanked on a Friday evening. I'll never forget it. I ended up stopping everything out with 8,000, and I withdrew the 8,000. I had my tail between my legs. It was one of the best lessons I learned about being greedy.
Mm.
So yeah, moving on forward then. I had a few ups and downs, as you would expect, throughout the year, but I knew I was getting better and better. So I started getting pretty good then, and I have been for the last year really. And I had seen Alpha. I think I seen a couple of Facebook ads. I never really passed too much remarks on it because I do study prop firms a lot. Like in that year, that I've been really trying to find the best of them, and I just had my hands that full that I didn't really pass that much remarks on Alpha because there's so many of them popping up, and they're all by the time you get through them and realize it's a hidden little rule, you're kind of let down, and they hide the rules well. Like some of them price them well and that, but Alpha prices them better than anyone. But there's no question about it. Like they're the top of the bunch at the minute. I couldn't believe when I seen the parameters. I kind of was like, oh, too good to be true. Well, what happened was one of the guys that I had met in a group, we'd be chatting over and back. He, after seeing the ad a few times, like I never even said anything about it, but he put Alpha to me one day. He said, this is this company that I'm trading for. They're from London. They have their office there. They're a bunch of English lads, sound lads. He said he'd been speaking to them many times, and he had a 100K account, and there was no problem with them at all. So thank you, Nick, for that. That was probably the best bit of information I had ever got, because then I turned around and I got an Alpha account. And the trading conditions with Alpha, I'm not just licking here trying to beef up Alpha or make them look good, but they are genuine. I wouldn't say it if they weren't. They're genuinely the best out there, the best trading conditions. You've got a low target to hit. You've got a 10% drawdown. You got your 5% your balance drawdown, not equity, not the equity drawdown scam. If you see an equity drawdown scam, equity drawdown, it's a scam. You need to run away. And Alpha haven't got that. That's the game changer there for any prop firm really, because there's so many out there with that equity drawdown rule, and they're only looking for you to fail. It's as simple as that. I did a little video on the. I sent to Alex. I sent it to Alex. I think he actually posted it there. It was only recently, explaining about that negative equity drawdown rule. And yeah, it's a scam. It's there to make you fail. So there's been no problems with Alpha. It's been an absolute dream to trade for you. I mean, the only thing that that for me that was different for me was changing over to MetaTrader 5 from 4. I was a bit old school staying with 4, and I'm glad I changed over to 5. I'm glad I had to change over because it's a dream to trade with. Compared to it's like you go back to MetaTrader 4 after trading 5 for a couple of weeks, and it feels like you're going back in time. Like
Yeah,
it's horrible.
It's a horrible little piece of software.
It is, yeah, but you don't realize, when you're so comfortable with something, you don't realize how good it is.
Yeah, it's like that change where people don't like change, really, isn't it?
I'm one of them guys as well.
Yeah.
So basically that's it. That's the run of the last 3 years and how I got into it, and the struggle I've had along the way. I mean, I've had some shocking struggles, I mean, I've been depressed, and I've been like, before I came home from Thailand, I was in a horrible hole. I thought there was no hope for me, I knew the only hope I had was to get out of Thailand. I had no choice anyway because I had no money left. But the only hope I had was to get home here to Ireland and to focus where I had no distractions like I had out there with the pubs and that. So, it all worked well. It took a while, but great things take time. You can't expect to do these things in a couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
if you wanna get to the top of anything, you have to make sacrifices. You can't just expect to have an easy road up there.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this industry, is that these Lambo boys out there, these boys with their Lambos and their Ferrari, some of them are all right. Don't get me wrong. Like, as I mentioned, Raja Banks there earlier, like, he's one of the decent ones out there. I'd love to see maybe him and Alpha do a bit of a collaboration there at some stage. I think, because they're probably two of the most genuine, what do you call them, niches in the market out there. He's got his magic keys and stuff, and you've got the prop firm, and you're the cream of the crop, So, I'd love to see more of the good people come together like that. So yeah, he was one of the ones. He didn't really have a massive car when I started following him. He had a Toyota, actually, and he was in Canada. But you follow that man's story and see where he came from, and see how he's built up his empire and built his trading account. It's absolutely amazing. And that's the kind of stuff you want to be looking at. You don't want to be looking at these guys to get a different Lamborghini every week, because they're getting that all on hire purchase. They're paying for it with your subscription fees. They've got signal groups, which don't ever go near a signal group, because they're all there to look good and perform crap. They don't. You can't win on them signal groups, because they post out a trade with 6 targets. They say they've got a 95% win rate. Yeah, because they've got one target is what they call 1-to-1, but if you've got 6 TPs, it's like a 0.166.
Yeah,
it's something ridiculous like that. And they're saying we did a 1 hour trade. They didn't do a 1 hour trade. Yeah. They're scamming you. They're posting on their Instagram to try and suck people into it, and that's how they're paying their loans off for these Lamborghinis.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm just looking at your journey. Like, you have been through it all.
You have to stay away from it.
Yeah, like,
we could talk here for another 2 hours about, really, like, there's an awful lot more that I could go into, like, and maybe we'll do another video some other time. I told Alex I'm coming for one of them big payouts, so it's on the way. It's looking good there now.
Certainly. Well, look, as a funded 400k trader, you've been through it all. You've been through the hardship. You've been through the problems.
Yeah,
but
the
good thing is, as you say there, that 1%, that ability just to say no. I don't know whether it's stubborn or a refusal to quit. It's just to persevere, dig in, understand, overcome, learn, develop, and you'll reap the rewards. And I think you're the prime example of that. Like, I think with all the interviews that we've done, I don't think there's been too many people who've had so many, I don't like to say failures, because they're not failures. Failure is only failure if you give up, but so many occasions where there's been a negative a movement or a negative impact, and you've just fought your way through it. And I suppose, like, that really goes back to the question, like, why did you want to become a trader? Was it the lifestyle? Was it the allure of money? Like, what brought you to the industry?
The money, straight up, the money.
The money.
There's no question about it. Like, people say money doesn't buy you happiness. It's not too often that I've been depressed with a bank account with 5 figures in it. I can promise you that. Anyone that tells you that money shouldn't change your happiness, they don't have money. That's why they're telling you. They don't want you to get ahead, because there's a lot of people out there who, like, I've been through it all. I've been slated over this, and when I started doing it, people are laughing at me, and they say, oh, well, I hope it works out for you, because there's a lot of people talking about you. The smart arses.
Yeah.
See how they're laughing by the end of the year. Like, this is next, or the end of 2024, because I put a target. I want to have a 7-figure bank account I won't say bank account, but I want to have 7 figures in assets by the end of 2024. And a Lamborghini is not an asset either. It's a liability. Like, you don't want to be spending your money on stupid cars. I was looking at cars last night. I said to my mum this morning, I said, I'm going to stop looking at cars, because I'm not buying anything until I have my target hit. And you want to be setting financial goals. You don't want to be setting, as I've been a bit of an animal for the drink when I go back to Thailand. So, I had to set a financial goal. Well, I can drink if I get X amount of dollars on my bank account. And that's the only way. So, sorry, I'm venturing off there. What was the question there?
So
what attracted me to it?
Yes, exactly.
Money, 100%. Anyone that says money is number one, like, you're your health, your family, and your money are the three most important things in your life, and you want to look after them all equally. You know, I mean, I don't know. Everyone's got a different background and where their family came from, but I see my parents struggle. I still see them struggle, and you know, I don't want to have their. My mum is 60 now. My dad is 64. He might be 65 actually. And you know, I want to be able. I'm in a position now, like I've been actually over the last couple of months. I've been quizzing them up about like what would make your life easier without telling them that I'm going to buy them a load of stuff. And if you know me and you're watching this and you know my dad, say nothing to him about it, because I want to land up with, you know, I want to, you know, buy him a quad and buy him put down a new yard for him and stuff like that. He's got a nice farm already, but you know, I'd like to be able to buy him stuff to make his the rest of his years easier. Yeah, he used to do a lot of walking. Like it's a 4-kilometer walk up to the top and back of the farm. Like, so he's been doing that every day since he was a kid, and it's like now you see his knees and his legs are starting to get sore. So if I just get me little 5-figure payout, I can go out and buy him a quad out of not even half of it. And then there you go. He is that for the next 20 years. He'll never have to walk up that rough field again, you know, up across them bumps and that. It's not easy. I've done it myself before. I've done all that stuff years ago, but you know, so you, as I say, the meme or whatever it is, if you don't come from a rich family, make sure a rich family come from you. Like, and that was, you know, you have to take them things on board and let them motivate you. If you do see your family struggle, use it as motivation. Like you want to hit a goal to be able to make that. Make their lives better, and make anyone, you know, who looked after you along the way. I've got friends as well, and they'll be looked after as well, you know, once I've got plenty of money. Like, not yet.
Go from there. Yeah. And I suppose looking back, what I know you said you traded multiple instruments, you kind of whittled it down. Is a gold that you trade mostly now, Alan? In
it's all I should trade, because I've been losing my gold money and everything else over the last couple of weeks. But I see a setup, and it's very hard not to take it on something else. And you know, our mentor is brilliant. You know, he talks over all the charts with us there at the start of the week. We do a Sunday evening Zoom call, and you know, when you have them charts marked up there in front of you, it's very hard not to take. But gold is, I really feel happy with gold. Like, you know, I've done so well with it. Gold's paid the bills for everything for me. Like, there was a point there, you know, where I lost on gold, and I was making a bet on currency pairs, but it's a 9-to-1 ratio. Like, it doesn't happen too often. Like, gold is the one.
Interesting. And I suppose then within your strategy, I presume you just focus primarily on the technical side, because I know obviously you mightn't want to go too much into sharing the particulars of how you trade the technical side itself, but I suppose giving us a basic overview, you would be more focused on the technical side than, let's say, fundamentals, or do you bring in fundamentals as well? How would you look at it from a week-to-week perspective?
I just buy low, sell high. No, the best bit of advice I can give to anyone, as you said, like, I don't want to go too much into my strategy out of respect for my mentor, because I know how much money he's put into it. You know, one of the things that happens with these strategies when they're that good and they get out there into the Lambo traders' hands, the Instagram gurus that sell their courses, and the next thing the banks see that everybody's jumping on the same trade, and then the next thing they just flip it around, complete opposite of what they do. And they've done it with us a few times as well with our strategy there. Got absolutely smashed there, and I did in October and November last year with the war. You know, you think the war is going to push the price of gold up, and they tanked it from 2,700 an ounce down to 1,620 an ounce, and it's over a space of about 6 months. So I was trying to catch buys that whole time. I mean, that was a massive experience for me. Like, so I'm an awful lot more careful now. But basically, the best I use there's so many strategies rolled into one in this, like with different EMAs, different levels. Fundamentals are a big part. There's no question about that. If you're going to trade gold without fundamentals, you're walking out. You're going to be killed. It's as simple as that. You want to understand.
You're walking a tightrope.
Oh, you are big time. Yes, you want to be getting sharpened up with your fundamentals now. That's where I lack. I really need to be an awful lot more clued in on what's going on. But one of the easiest strategies I say to anyone is to go across all your different time frames and run different moving averages across each time frame, take a note of where it reacts and where it breaks and where it retests. And the break and retest is what you want to be looking for. Like that's nearly everything I trade is a break and retest anyway. I never just jump straight into a trade. I do sometimes, but the safest way you can trade is a break and retest of any level or a moving average.
I suppose with that, you just try and be as disciplined as possible. Like, this is the process. This is what I look for. This is obviously why I get in. And then obviously trying to follow that without being FOMOing in or kind of getting those dollar urges to maintain your discipline as much as possible.
Oh, I still get them.
And I suppose that brings me to a question then as well. In terms of those, how do you handle your emotions? I presume you have a fairly regimental or a fairly decent, solid risk management plan now, given the trials, the tribulations that you've went through over the last few years.
I've literally banged my head off the wall and I don't want to have to do it again. So it's as simple as that. I can't face that pain of losing an account anymore. It's the fear of losing an account. When you've lost that many times, you don't want it to happen again. And you know, I've literally banged my head off the wall and gone, "What are you doing, you idiot?" I think we're being censored here. We don't want to be cursing, but yeah, I could have thrown a lot more into that. I've been disgusted with myself for what I've done, and I don't want to go down that road again.
Certainly. And I suppose with strategy, do you then look at journaling as well? Like, do you look at your data? Do you look at your metrics, performance? Do you try and bring that into to kind of critique your own performance as you develop?
I don't, believe it or not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I don't. I just try to keep improving. I look back. Yeah, I do look back at some trades to see what went wrong, but I don't really journal my own risk management. And my own risk management still is terrible, but it's a lot better than it was, and it's working a lot better for me now. So, you know, as I'm hitting around that 40 mark now, it's like they say that the 40s are the best years of your life, where you calm down a lot, you know, and that was a big problem for me when I started off. I was too excited, whereas now I'm way more relaxed with it. Yeah. So, you know, if you're in your 20s or if you're in your 30s and you are doing the same thing I was, don't give up either. Just try and get comfortable with the whole process and stop looking at dollar signs and look at percentages. Like, you want to gain 0.5% in a day. The biggest problem for me along the way, the number one problem was FOMO, like getting into trades way too early. Scared you'll miss the big move. The market will always present you with a move. There's never, and never has been, or there never will be a time when the markets are not going to present you with a move. Every day it happens. So stop thinking that you have to jump in early. Because you're gonna miss the whole move, and really, really, really manage your risk on it. Like, go low lot size if you think you're in a bit too early. But yeah, I still manage my risk. I should be a lot better with it, but I'm doing pretty good now with what I'm doing, you know, especially when I'm gold. I can comfortably risk 2% on gold. And I know that if I miss the first move, I'll catch it on the second one. You know, that's kind of where I am at with that. And I use a big stop loss with it as well. Stop using these tiny stop losses and stop thinking that these guys doing 20-to-1 trades. Forget about that. If you're starting off, you want to be using a 200 pip stop loss and forget about these 20 pip stop losses. Because that's where everyone gets caught at the start. These SMC, well, like, I know how SMC works, and I know some of these setups with tight stops work, but if you're going to get used to it, not want the market savaging you up at the beginning when it's going to ruin your confidence, just stop trading with small stop losses. Use a big one, and stop focusing on big RR trades as well. Just take the 1-to-1. That's nobody. You never see anyone bragging about 1-to-1s on Instagram. It's the 1-to-1s that make the money.
And like, the thing is as well, it's you can't, and this is something I just say to folks as well. You can't lose money by banking profits.
Exactly, yeah. And
do it often and
go again tomorrow, rinse and repeat. It'll be there tomorrow. The same setup might be there tomorrow. Take it out again and do it again. Take your 1-to-1. You got a 200k account. That's $2,000 a day. Well, $1,600 in your hand for a day for an hour's work, for an hour sitting waiting for something to happen and then banging it in. Even if you take a negative or take a 0.5% and you still got one, if it keeps working, if all it has to work for is over 50%. Sorry, my brain is a bit frazzled. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And there you've got money in the bank coming into the bank every day or every week. So stop thinking these 20-to-1 trades are the
if
only
it,
thing that's going to get you rich. They're the only thing that's going to get you poor, because you're going to blow all your accounts.
yeah. Well, I
Some
suppose
guy that sold you the course and told you to do them, he's going to get rich.
Yeah. Well, look, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And rinse and repeat is one of the best ones you can probably listen to. So if you keep doing the same thing every day,
for sure,
and then you become consistent, you're more used to being consistent, and you're more comfortable with the trades, and that's how it works out much better.
Build that self-awareness, self-discipline. Now, I suppose here's a good question, because you mentioned it there briefly, and it's something that I was meant to ask earlier, but I didn't get around to it. Your multiple positions, you talked about, if I don't catch the first one, I'll catch the second one. Do you scale in? Do you add multiple positions, let's say, when you're trading, or do you have a set appropriation in terms of the quantity of trades you take for a relative instrument? Let's say for gold, for example, today, if you spot something, will you enter multiple times? Will you wait and see, or do you kind of play it out to see how it develops in normal market conditions?
I'm pretty scatty with that. Like, I do rather go with a lot of small positions rather than one big one. I don't recommend this to anybody starting off, but if you're starting off, get used to put one trade on and get used to seeing it in drawdown, because if you have it set to -1%, you can control what you lose, but your earnings, like, it might do 1-to-1, it might just tank overnight. If you have a risk-free and it tanks overnight, you could get a 3-to-1. You know, you could be in 6 grand days there if you have a 200k account. So yeah, I do tend to, I'll have a level marked, and I'll watch it coming back to that level. And if I think it's going to turn, like, I never really use the same lot size on any trade. I'll always have it different, because if it looks good, I'll put more on it. Like, it's not, so again, it's not something I recommend doing, but you know, if a setup does look good, I do put more on it. There's no point in saying I don't.
I suppose that question really comes more down to really experience, really, doesn't it? Because obviously someone who's trading in the markets 3, 4, 5 years, who's made mistakes, who's learned, who's progressed, who ebbs back and forth, and someone who's completely new, two very, very different outlooks, I suppose, as well, in terms of how you look at the markets, how you approach the markets. So I suppose it really all comes down to you as an individual, really, doesn't it? And trying to apply that best case scenario.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy enough. As I said, I'm doing pretty good at the minute. I'm not over risking too much, you know. I do a little bit, but there's no need. And you know, I've got the 400k there now, but I don't really trade one. I'm kind of focused on one. You know, it's like I just want to stick with gold for a while, and I'll wait for a better setup with the other one. I have a trade running on it already, but that's at least a 1 week trade, a swing trade. So I can just sit there. I don't have to worry about it. I can sleep well at night.
Yeah.
Once
you know what the process is in the back end, it makes things a hell of a lot easier. It means then you can follow your plan as best as possible. I suppose another question now, given everything that we've kind of talked about over the last while today, what do you enjoy most about working as a trader? Right. So this is obviously now turning what was quite a negative start to this conversation, obviously hearing the trials and the tribulations to the more positive side.
You see, I got that COVID jab there in August last year, and I collapsed about 1/10 of one of my lungs. So I've had a couple of health issues. Then because I was so inactive, I ended up slipping my L4 and L5 discs. I was dragging a Zimmer frame around backwards for a week after it, and then it popped again. It wasn't as bad the second time. So I'm actually nursing a couple of injuries, and I'm trying to get back into better health. And I did let it slip a bit because I was focused on trading as well, but I couldn't really do much because of the collapsed lung. I was down a lot, like. So you know, it's I have to focus on that now. You know, I have to try and start focusing on I have to get rehab on my back now. I have to get a chiropractor to what do they call it? Sorry, I'm a bit brain froze again here. I have to get rehab on it anyway. I have to get
physio.
Physio. I have to get some attention on that. And I mean, it's good that you can make money while you're, you know, you don't really have to worry about doing too much either.
If you've got any sort of sensible mind, you can do it. You can do it, absolutely. You don't need
to. It gives you, it frees up a lot of your time. You know, I'm lucky I have a lot of time now anyway. But if I was working, I'd probably at the point where I wouldn't have to work. I wouldn't have to worry too much about working anymore either.
Yeah.
And it's another thing I recommend doing is to, once you get ahead, to make sure you're set up well. When you get your first payout, you've got backup money there to go again, just in case anything does happen. Because a lot of people will let that money go to their head. They get a bit excited when they get some money, and then they blow their account the next time. I've done it myself, so
Yeah.
So I know. There's a lot of phases, as well as that. Like when you go and you do phase one, you get on to phase two, and it looks so much easier. But in reality, if you go down into 2.5% drawdown or 2 point something% drawdown on your phase two, your profit target is the same as the
Phase one.
as what you've got left in your max drawdown. And you tend to take it for granted. Like you tend to go into phase two a bit blind and thinking it's easy, and then you end up. I've lost phase two a lot of times. I've lost quite a few phase twos, and I've lost a few lives as well. Like because lives then is another completely different ball game. Like you go into when you get your live, it's just that's when it really becomes
tricky.
You need to screw your head on a bit better and focus on it more. I recommend anybody who's working and trying to get into this to not give up their 9 to 5 and go straight into it, because then you've got the pressure of needing that money. I also don't recommend continuing working. I think you just have to find a happy medium. You have a nice bit of money built up, and then quit your job, and then make sure that you've got money to keep you going for the next few months, and the next year even.
Yeah.
And then you can give up your job, and then you can take things an awful lot more serious. Anybody I know who's given up their job, their trading level came up a lot. They've an awful lot more time to concentrate on it.
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose really then the flexibility. So it's back to that question about what you enjoy most about working as a trader. I suppose is that flexibility.
Yeah, being able to get on a plane and going over to see my dog. I'm only back. I've been back here 10 months now, but because of the little injuries, if you want to call them injuries, I've got doctor's appointments. I was a year waiting for an MRI in my back to find out what was wrong. So I just found out there last week that the L5 and the L4 are bulging out, and they pinched the nerve, and I think that's what locked up my back a couple of times. But yeah, to be able to go and just jump on the plane, then you can literally do it from anywhere you want on this planet. The last day we tried to have a chat, I was out walking. You can be out walking along the road trading. You couldn't hear me with the wind, but you can make money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I suppose.
Yeah, and again, we'll go back to the money. It's the money at the end of the day makes it brilliant.
Money makes the world go round, isn't that what they say? And I suppose with your experience, right, everything that you've gone through, the trials, the tribulations, as we talked about earlier, your setbacks, your medical issues, the darker days where you've been brutally honest, and I think that's really, really good, because I think a lot of people will resonate with the darker days. What do you think are the qualities that traders needs to have, right? So if you want to be successful in this game, what are the things that you would be telling people to focus on?
Focus on your resilience, never giving up. That's it. That's the most important thing. If you give up, you become the statistic, the other side, the one that we don't ever want to become, that 1% or whatever it is. It's even less with trading prop firms, because of the number of scams that's out there with some other ones trying to make you fail. They've got ridiculous ratios altogether. Alphas, traders do pretty well. You see in the group they're getting that payout proof, and I do always encourage them to post their payout proof, and it helps to motivate other people, because at the end of the day, that's what people want to see. They want to see them big numbers coming in, and they are possible. You can do so much. Where you start now, you can be starting out with $100. You could have 100,000 clocked up by the end of the year. And that's no joke. Those numbers are real. It's not no exaggeration. I'm nearly there myself, so I know what I'm talking about. And I told you the whole story. Came back from started with $100. I could now, if I had to do that now, and this is what I'd love to. I kind of thought about helping people, but oh Jesus, I don't know if I have the head for it. Help people. I posted this whole story on my Instagram. Like I posted my bank account, an empty bank account, and I told people what my goals were, because if they didn't see that, they wouldn't believe me, because I know what I'm going to have by the end of next year. And there's no cap on it. Really, you can, anything you could put. Let's say you put $1,000 into, you can make $100,000 by the end of the year. Like, that's ridiculous profit. There's nothing on this planet at the minute, not that I know of now, that can give you those kind of returns. Like,
Yeah.
like you don't want to become that statistic that's on the other side. You want to be the
resilience,
winning statistic.
and I suppose, with that being said, then, if you were, let's say you were talking to your younger self from 4 years ago, what would you tell them where would you tell them to start off with?
Oh God, I'd say stop drinking anyway. That's the first thing I'd say. You're going to ruin your life with drink. Like, you're going to claw it back, but you're going to drink yourself into some dark hole. You're going to crash your bike. You're going to see why I've got chipped teeth and a bunch of scars run into my hairline here, because that was the next morning. Like, I've had some pretty bad crashes. Yeah, the amount of money I've lost trading because of drink has been shocking. Unbelievable. I only lost 25 grand there this time last year, I think it was. I had 25 grand running, and I just couldn't even open my app. I was on the beer for 2 days or whatever it was. So if I had to go back and meet myself, I'd say, Alan, don't drink. You'll be a better man without it. Like, I wish I had have given up. You see, I don't even drink when I'm back in Ireland. I wouldn't class myself as an alcoholic. I just love a party, like when there's a party going on. But when you're back here at home, all my friends are either married or they've gone. They've changed their lives since what it was 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago back in Ireland, I was partying here all the time. But now it's nice and settled, and everyone's gone. So it's happened at the right time, Got the experience with the shitty prop firms.
Maturity.
It's sure everything's peaking now at the right time. I'm off I wouldn't even look at a drink here.
Yeah. I suppose it's all about discipline, really. Self-discipline. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the best advice I give to myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change much else. I mean, you start thinking about making changes to your past too much. Like, you're on that road for a reason. Like, there's no question about that. You're put through these struggles because you probably need to be put through them. Like,
every day is a lesson learned, isn't it? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
sure. And I suppose then you've talked about it now, so I know I'm kind of nearly repeating myself, but your goal, you've got a strong goal by 2024. Do you want to
7 figures now? I have 7 figures in assets. I don't care if it's in what account it's in, if it's in property or whatever. But and if it's not like, I put it up there because I wanted to. I mean, don't think anybody believed me when I showed him an empty bank account that I was going to pull 20 grand out of it a couple of months later, and I did. I said what was that, 100x? Whatever. Yeah, I massive return. Like, the returns for the money I put into it.
Well, it's
I posted a screenshot of that payment. It was for €200 at the time, I think it was, and I've done it a couple of times, and I mean, it's worked out. It's not worked out, because of the risk management and stuff. I've had my ups and downs, but this time it's different. What did I put into Alpha? €2,000 and less, because you keep an eye on Alpha's discounts. They've always got a couple of great offers running, and it's a good chance for anyone to get.
There's one running at the minute, I think.
They have, actually. Yeah, they've got a couple of them. You can go and look for yourself and see what they are, because there's a couple of different ones. But yeah, there's definitely a couple. And yeah, I mean, to get that kind of money, if you can pull out 20-30 grand out of something after 3 months, 1 grand is not much to put into something. It's really nothing out there.
It all comes down to risk reward. What are you prepared to risk, and what are you prepared to get back, and then try and stick to your plan and maintain that composure
and make them sacrifices. You have to make them sacrifices.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alan, it's amazing to have you on today. I think it's been really, really good today, because I think a lot of people can see that trading always isn't about how much you can win, because there is the dark days involved. There is those difficult times. And I think a lot of people, they don't realize, they don't see the darker sides of the trading. And I think this conversation today has been really, really informative. And I hope really a lot of people can see it for themselves as well, that it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows, that there is effort, there is work required. But if you're prepared to put it in, you can actually make it back. And I think you're probably one of the best examples in our community, in our Discord communities, in our active Discord community, should I say that, probably of this. But yeah, it's been great having you on today, Alan, in that regard.
Yeah, well, you know, if you want to wrap it up there, we can wrap it up. But one thing I'll say to anybody, if you're on the fence, if you have any doubts, pop into the Discord. Drop me a DM. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If all the boys are there answering questions every day, there's no bullshit. Like it's straight up. How can you even? The money is there to be made. If you want to make it, you can make it. Don't think you can't. So if you need any, if you have any doubts, I'm always there to answer any questions anyone has. Lovely, get into that Discord and see what's going on.
Brilliant, sir. Brilliant. Well, look, I'm definitely going to have you on again, right? For sure. Because we need to see you're going to get to this 7-figure. Not that I don't believe it for a second. I do. I actually thoroughly believe that you're probably going to be one of our wealthier traders now in the not so distant future. But even to see your progress and development with us, I suppose, in the next 6-9 months, I think is going to be brilliant. But yeah, no, absolute pleasure having you on today, sir. And obviously, best of luck for the rest. Best of luck for the rest of the year, I'd say. Not just this week.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you, Alpha, for the opportunity that you've given us. It's a life changer. There's no question about that. I've seen all the $500 that I lost and the $1,000 I lost. It goes quick when it's personal account and you don't make much out of it. Put it into a funded account. Take a couple of months to make it work. Get past phase 1 and phase 2, and you're looking at a massive return.
Lovely, for sure. Alan, good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much. I'll talk to
you
you
later,
soon.
Jerry. Anytime. Hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Cheers.